Welcome, everyone, to Creatives in Conversation. And it's a real honor tonight to have Hiram Larew and T.A. Niles at this event talking about collaboration and also reading Hiram's poetry. I hope you got a chance to read their bios that are amazing. It's really interesting to find out Hiram's background, and T.A.'s bio is written very poetically, it's very creative as well. And their bios are, you all have the newsletter. If you that's how you get the Zoom link to come in, and so you can click there and it'll go to their a page with their bios, and also the blog post review that I wrote. I invite you to read that if you haven't yet, because it's my view, but I was just blown away by both Hiram's poetry and TA's in the audiobook, TA's delivery of the poetry, which they'll be talking about today. And Hiram has a very interesting and accessible yet original style. And TA was able to give that to us through his voice. So that's all I'm going to do. I don't like to take up time because you can read more about them in the things that I've posted. So I'm just going to let Hiram Larew take it away. So Hiram.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mary. Can't thank you enough for creating the space for us to gather today and for the opportunity to talk about creatives as they visit with each other. I'm also very grateful, as I hope will be clear throughout the evening, to T.A. Niles from New Mexico for the collaborative spirit, the open heart that he's brought to this venture, this travelogue that is still going on. I also want to thank Mary for her, for me at least, heart-stopping blog post review of Mud Ajar. I told her that I spilled coffee all over myself when I read it. I was just amazed. So I really do appreciate all of that from Mary and for the work with TA. So we're going to open this session with a 3-minute video clip that TA and I produced. It is just a clip of a much longer, well, about a 20-minute video that we are currently working on with harmonica player Cliff Bernier. And in that full video and in this clip that you'll see, we present a few of the poems I've written over the years. Mary was good enough to include the clip in the promotional materials for this today's event. So apologies to you if you've already seen it. So here's a sneak peek into a really enjoyable, heartening collaboration. TA, if we could go ahead and share screen.
Will do. Can you see the screen or no?
Not yet.
Not yet?
There we go.
All righty.
Great.
This early poem first appeared in the Wisconsin River Valley Journal, and then in Hiram's first collection, Heart of. It's entitled Boat. You see, I don't care if his hair is combed back. He is my son. I love every shoestring of him, every bit that he thinks he knows. 50 years. I don't care what he becomes, because he'll become something. Look at him. He'll become more than those red hairs or grinning legs. He'll become even more important than midnight. More and more, I hold him by his shoulder less and less. And when I do, it's as if he can't be here forever. I think I'll get him a boat to carry and watch him like the minute that just went by. In the long run, nothing I do will matter. I know that. But look at him, especially when he's reaching for something. There must be a whole other world out there somewhere that's missing him. Sorry about the jumping of that screen.
This opening poem first appeared in Voices of Israel, and then in my collection titled Undone. It's all about the amazing opening of a day. It's titled Unction. When the sun sneaks through trees as cream can, when clouds spike out to where calm flows, when every folded creek sings for the first time or forgets that it belongs, when more than even that almost whispers, like how rain lifts the mornings, when such quiet bends towards early roars, when all startings blend and my stories flock, when the sun sneaks under as nothing else does, or the light frays with chatter. Good. Thank you, TA, for sharing that. You're seeing a sneak preview. There's still some things we're working on, the audio included, but that hopefully gives you an idea of some of the collaborative work that TA and I, and if you heard the harmonica in the background, the first piece, Cliff Bernier, are working on. So that video clip really depended on a lot of collaboration. TA, would you be willing to tell us a little bit about our collaboration? How would you describe how we kind of got started working together?
Oh, I'd be happy to. And I went and looked today just to be sure and checked out the 2,000 emails that have gone on over the last, literally over the last 10 months. But I was contacted by Find a Way Voices, who is the audiobook company, one of them that I've worked with, and auditioned. And Hiram and I got together on that project to record Mud Ajar. And it has been quite the journey since, but that's how we got started. If you'd like me to go on, Hiram, I'm happy.
No, that's fine. So as I worked on this collection, I began to work with a press called Atmosphere Press, and they offered me the option of having the book audio recorded. And then they sent me, I sent them a few examples of poems that I'd like readers to read to give me some idea about which reader I would choose for an audiobook. And they sent me the recordings from 3 readers. In my mind, there was no decision at all. It was a very easy decision. TA's audio recording, as he said, through the company that he worked with, rose to the top very, very quickly. And we've been working then together ever since. He produced and narrated and produced the audiobook version, but we've kind of extended, I think we would say, wouldn't you, TA, extended that partnership and are working on things like the video and the like.
Well, Hiram's been the most present person in my life for the last 10 months. So
Be that for good or worse, I don't know.
Well, I think it's for good. I really do, because it's been a really exhilarating collaboration. Imagine when you get to our age, you've probably done quite a bit of collaboration over time. And this has certainly been the highlight of any professional collaborations that I've done. And that's because Hiram is just so responsive, so willing to, I mean, this is why we work together, because we both have the same objective, to bring across the best product that we can produce together. And Cliff has the same attitude. So it's been tremendous. I'm very grateful.
Yep, I agree. What I have found kind of the most gratifying about this collaboration is to be able to work with another creative who not only reads the poems, and I'm talking about TA here, he reads the poems with such care and respect, but he also has all kinds of insights on how to best present the work. And so I've learned quite a bit from him as we've worked through the poems, and he's presented them, read them. I've read some of them as well. I've read some of them to him so that he has my interpretation. But to experience my poems through the voice of a professional narrator has really been ear-opening and mind-stretching. Also, I won't dwell on this much, but I've also been lucky enough to collaborate with some translators of the work. So some of these poems in Mud Ajar have been translated into languages like Shona, Dari, Spanish, Japanese, Gaelic, and that's been an eye-opening joy as well, to work with translators as they've had questions about meaning and nuance, and then to follow how they then interpret that work. TA, what's been some of the most surprising things about this collaboration for you?
Well, beyond the responsiveness and our ability to work so well together, because I'm not the easiest person sometimes, but beyond that, I would say the surprise has really been within, because I've had to stretch, as you, I don't think we've mentioned it yet, Mary, but Hiram uses language in a very creative, unique, original way. And I am a very literate sort of individual, as a matter of course. And so in reading the poems, I've had to stretch myself to embrace the poetry. And now, if you read what I write, you'll see some Hiramisms in my poetry. So it's been surprising, that I was still able to stretch and to absorb things that at first glance I'm going, huh? What do you mean by this? And then as I continue to read the poems, as a matter of fact, I listened to the sample of the audiobook, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I want that back. I want to do that again, because, as you continue to read Hiram's work, it just grows on you and takes on new meaning. So again, I think the surprising thing for me was that I was able to make that stretch.
And what was particularly wonderful, as far as I was concerned, is that you were willing to do that and kind of be brave and trusting of the work. And as I say, I incredibly grateful. If I had to say that there was one lesson learned in all of this for me, it was being able to find somebody I could trust with the work, who would respect it, who would take care with it. And that I consider myself extremely lucky to have found TA as he began to work on the poems with me. So I would say at this point, TA, if you're agreeable, let's read a couple of poems. Let's read a few poems here. I think you're going to start with reading a couple poems from Mud Ajar, right?
That's correct. That's what we're going to do. So let me just jump right in there with one of my favorites. This is a very accessible piece to most folks, and it was very easy for me, and I could relate. This one first appeared in the New Ulster, and it is titled Muddy. I wish I could tell which of my friends will be friends forever, and who will just walk off whistling into the woods. Which ones will chance choose for keeps from the randoms? So many slip away without saying much. Others drop off when I throw a fit, and some turn sour soon after ripening. Walls as tall as 65 also make it harder to keep in touch. The starts and stops of friendships are muddy mysteries. So I guess that there's no way to predict who will end up being there after all, waving that checkered flag and grinning. And that, one of my favorites, as you know, Hiram. Let me make my screen a little bigger so that I can see.
Sure.
And I think I will be doing one more before we get to
Yes.
Hiram's reading.
Yeah.
And the following poem had its debut in a journal called Hedge Apple. It's a special piece to me because my mom passed at the end of April last year, and Hiram and I started working on Mud Ajar in July. So the following poem struck a poignant note, and it's titled In the Next Room Over. That's the background that you see is my mom and I holding hands hours before she passed. In the next room over. I'll bet you whatever you want that she won't make it through the night. And that's not being dreary. That's just being honest. So anything out loud she says, pay attention to, but especially do if you hear her coughing, or if you smell doom in the hay, or hear water gushing down drains, because she's preparing. Trust me, long, long ago, when things were as simple as that finger in your ear, she was a goddess, like smoke is in fall. She was as pure as poured milk or the fullest of apples. That was then. Now, the situation is a gaspy fish, and the need to avoid and look away is deeply with us. But oh, will you just look here at this little frame? There we were once, posed under a tree, lined up like sparrows. She was the robin. So I tell you this, with my heart for my throat, a cool, damp word is the least and most we can do for her now. Thank you.
Thank you, TA. And I hope everyone is very clear, I think, that why it's just been such a wonder to be able to work with TA and that marvelous voice, interpretive voice. Thanks so much. So this next piece is, again, all of these pieces that we're going to be reading from here on out, a few more, are from Mud Ajar. This one is all about gratitudes, the opening of the day and the luckiness felt for just being present in that opening. It's titled This If. I fly myself far as can be, like windows do, or doors beyond. This reaching sky, these trees of all that's gone or coming to, and rounded beams. I fly as how open is, and porches swing up to towards, each rhyme undone, to tell of fill and full where blue is now. I fly this if. but also more. Where clouds love rakes, or fields are curls, to forever wear, or halos fling my scattered firsts, this day that rings. And the next poem, I apologize to those of you who have already heard it, maybe more than enough. I read this poem with a deep, deep and loving respect in another voice. It first appeared in Vox Poetica. It's titled Smart, Dumb. She was born inside out, the size of a heavy orange. And the story goes that she was wobbly from the very start. Even as a little girl, she was so smart and so damn dumb together. That's the way sometimes. Well, wouldn't you know it? Dead solved the problem. The full story isn't important, but what is that at about 19 or so, she fell jaw drop in love with someone who just wouldn't, couldn't, and didn't. Someone like too close to a fire. Yes, with those kind of eyes. And the thing was, there was no warning her at all, not any. And oh my goodness, the rumors were rich enough to live on. But here's the thing really. Here's the thing really. She ended up like a tree toppled over with all the roots up in the air. Hers was a big sideways life that just never really got started. And of course, she's gone now, but is wholly famous. That's what's starting out. That's what's starting out with too many wants will do in an all or nothing sort of way. So the lingering question is this: is it truly best to leave nature alone or invite it in for a chat over dinner? Thanks, TA. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Hiram. Well, folks, hopefully you can see why Hiram will never, ever need to hire another narrator again. I'm glad I got in while the getting was good. So anyway, I will continue with Succotash. And this piece was written recently with recent years and headlines in mind. Of course, it's in Mud Ajar's, Hiram has already said. Succotash. My country, so poly, so jack of all trades and confetti. This yard sale of nations with ditches of weeds and cornfields split open. The tar in my whistles. My country, the talons and scars after oozing. The sparklers, my country, that wake up but ransack what happened, and broad beams that dazzle the mud. My country, all arrows shot heaven with swearing. My country, in sparrows gone haywire and hobo, the screen doors to wisdom slammed shut and gone off to, with maps left behind. My country, these blackboards of silence and misspells. My country, so flies over pie. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ooh.
Thanks, T.A. Thank you so much. This last poem, and by the way, as Mary was saying at the beginning, we're hoping that you'll have some questions or comments here in just a few minutes. So please prepare those or be thinking of those as we go here. But this is the last poem that I'd like to present. And again, my thanks to TA and to Mary and to all of you for showing up today. This poem first appeared in a journal called West Trade Review. And there's mention in it of that cultural icon, really legend, Johnny Appleseed. It's all about my love of ancestors. It's titled Losing Birthdays. One of my grandmothers grew deep red geraniums on her front porch for everyone strolling by in the summer to admire. My other grandmother trained a rose bush of palest pinks and heavenly scent up over her back door. I was lost. And so there is how just now these fields of sunrise forget such birthdays, while blackbirds pick and ticks climb up. What good am I at taking such things inside? These deepest loves and smallest sounds. And I've been told that wherever he went, my imaginary uncle caused people to shyly grin. He was strange, they all said, but people loved him anyway for his dreamy ways. He was just like Johnny Appleseed, who I still believe dropped barefoot seeds on every spot that could be found, poor or steep, year by year, from here to then. Thank you, Mary. We will turn it back over to you.
All right. Well, of course, that was absolutely fantastic. And what I'd like to do before I stop recording is invite everybody to unmute themselves and give a great big round of applause for Hiram, TA, and Mud Ajar.
Yeah, great stuff.
Yay!
Wonderful.
Amazing!
Wonderful.
Phenomenal!
That's great. Yeah.
Fantastic! Hey, Christopher.
Before we go forward, Mary, can we also give a hand, because the audiobook wouldn't be what it was, and neither would the video without Stephanie's contribution over there. So I think we should give her a hand.
All right.
Yay! Well, great.
Yes,
Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to say one thing and then I'll stop recording and we'll open up for Q&A, and there's a lot of great comments in the chat. But for those of you who have not read the review I wrote, I set it up using Hiram parts of Hiram's poetry from Mud Ajar as examples of my way of looking at some ways that you can write strong poetry, and used his examples from him. And then I wrote based on the idea of also the collaboration and listening to the audiobook, because I listened to that first and then I read the book silently to myself. My next plan is going to be to read the book silently as I listen to TA narrate, and then I'm going to read it out loud. So there's at least four ways to really enjoy this book, Mud Ajar. But I wrote, even though I can hear the musicality when reading the poems to myself, because Hiram's skill in creating lyrical poetry is stellar, hearing TA's exquisite, nuanced voice, punctuating each word perfectly for full effect, took me as if I were riding a magical, golden, crafted raft floating on a peaceful stream of poetry, every twist and turn navigated sublimely.
Obviously, she's a poet.
Yes.
But those words just came to me after hearing the book read by TA and hearing the poems that Hiram wrote and then TA reading them. So I'm going to stop recording now. Where is that? Huh. Oh, I think it's up here. Here we go. It's at the top.